I friend-zoned you to protect my heart. But the rule I made to keep myself safe was actually breaking my heart, day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment. For 18 months, I had one rule: never let you know how much you meant to me. I'm gonna show you the 6 ways my one rule broke my heart while saving my pride. Way number 1. The first way started with something you'd never suspect. Every moment you made my heart race, I had to kill it immediately. Not because I didn't want to feel it, because feeling it felt like handing you a loaded weapon. Tuesday afternoon, walking through campus. You make this ridiculous impression of our statistics professor, and I laugh so hard I forget to breathe. For exactly 4 seconds, I let you see how much joy you bring me. Then panic sets in. I immediately check my phone and create distance because letting you know your magic feels too dangerous. When you text me that song about anxiety later that week, my heart flutters for 17 minutes straight. I listen to it on repeat, crying because someone finally understands. But when I respond, good song. 2 words. Because this made me feel seen for the first time in years, would give you too much power. My therapist later called this emotional minimization, training myself to downplay every beautiful feeling you created, because beautiful feelings lead to hope, and hope leads to devastation when people leave. My chest stays tight for weeks, because I'm literally conditioning myself not to feel joy around the person who brings me the most happiness. But minimizing moments wasn't enough to control what was happening to me. Way number 2. I turned the phrase best friend into a weapon against my own heart. Why would someone use language to torture themselves? Because sometimes the words we choose become prisons we can't escape. A few weeks later, at lunch with Sarah, she asks if we're dating. I practically scream, "No, we're just best friends," so aggressively that other tables turn to look. The rest of lunch, I over-explain our purely platonic dynamic, while my stomach knots with the lie. By that summer, my sister notices I mention you in every conversation. Instead of admitting you matter, I give this rehearsed speech about rare male friendships and emotional maturity. She doesn't believe me. I don't believe me. But I keep talking because silence would reveal too much. After we'd been friends for a while, you hug me goodbye following a deep conversation. I stand in my apartment for 12 minutes, dizzy from how perfect it felt. Then I text my group chat, so grateful for platonic male friendships, trying to convince myself more than them. What I didn't realize until months later in therapy was that I was using defensive labeling, carving those words deeper into reality with every repetition, making it impossible to imagine anything else between us. The best friend label wasn't protecting our connection. It was suffocating what I actually felt until I couldn't breathe. My therapist asked me to count how many times I said just friends in 1 week. 43 times. I was literally hypnotizing myself into believing a lie, but words alone couldn't kill what was growing between us. Way number 3. Then I started avoiding the very moments that made our connection real. This is where I crossed from protection into active destruction, because intimacy felt like breaking every rule I'd made to survive. That fall, you invite me to that indie film festival. 2 hours in a dark theater, experiencing art together, feels too much like what I actually want. I lie about visiting family and spend the weekend scrolling your Instagram stories, hating myself for missing everything beautiful. Around your birthday, I organize the entire party but assign myself tasks that keep me moving. Serving cake, taking photos, anything to avoid sitting still, and letting you see how much your happiness means to me. Later that winter, you suggest the mountain trip we'd talked about for months. You want a weekend away, just us. I panic and claim I can't afford it, even though I have the money. 48 hours alone with you terrifies me because I might not be able to maintain this performance. It took me months to understand what I was really doing, running from every situation where my guard might slip, where you might discover that your best friend was actually a woman falling apart from loving you in secret. I cry for 43 minutes after declining the mountain trip because I realize I'm destroying the very thing I'm trying to protect. Each avoided moment felt like choosing safety over joy. but I was actually choosing fear over the possibility of everything I wanted. If you're watching this because you've seen someone pull away from beautiful moments with you, subscribe now. Because if you skip what comes next, you'll never understand how protection becomes self-destruction. But avoiding moments wasn't enough. I needed to kill the hope entirely. Way number 4. I started creating distance between us, hoping that missing you would hurt less than loving you. Why do people torture themselves with loneliness? Because sometimes missing someone by choice feels safer than risking losing them by accident. By the next year, I stopped responding to your texts immediately. Instead of my usual instant replies, I wait hours, even when I'm holding my phone. I tell myself this creates healthy boundaries, while really I'm just practicing living without you. That spring, I decline our Tuesday coffee tradition. I claim work stress, but really I'm testing whether I can survive with less of you. Those Tuesday afternoons, I sit in my apartment checking my phone every 7 minutes, miserable but convinced this is necessary preparation for when you eventually leave. A few weeks later, you notice my distance and ask if everything's okay. I lie about being overwhelmed with life, while you trust me enough to believe it. That trust makes lying to you feel like swallowing glass. My therapist helped me understand this was preemptive withdrawal, creating distance before someone can reject you. But I wasn't preparing for your rejection. I was guaranteeing it through my own actions. Self-imposed loneliness felt like practicing for death. Every Tuesday spent alone, I chose the certainty of sadness over the possibility of more happiness than I knew how to handle. I lose 7 pounds during this period because fighting my own feelings makes eating impossible. But even physical distance couldn't kill what I felt. So I tried something more desperate. Way number 5. I convinced myself you were better as a fantasy than a reality. Here's the cruelest thing I did to both of us. I started loving the idea of you instead of loving you. Around that time, I began treating our every interaction like literature. Your comment about my sweater becomes evidence of soul-deep connection. You remembering my presentation deadline proves cosmic understanding. I build mythology around you that exists more in my imagination than reality. For weeks, I write journal entries about you that read like love letters I'll never send. I process every conversation, every laugh, every glance like sacred text. But I never share these thoughts because fantasy feels safer than truth. Eventually, my friend asks what I actually want with you. I realize I've been so busy protecting myself that I've never honestly considered what real love with you might look like. I've been in love with the safety of loving you from a distance. What I learned later was that I was maintaining a fantasy relationship, preserving connection through imagination rather than authentic interaction. I wasn't loving you. I was loving the idea of loving you without any of the beautiful, terrifying risks of real intimacy. The fantasy required nothing from me except continued imagination. Reality would have required courage I wasn't sure I possessed. When even fantasy couldn't satisfy my heart, everything collapsed. Way number 6. I realized my rule wasn't protecting me from heartbreak. It was guaranteeing it. Then one day, you tell me about someone you're starting to date. In that moment, I understand that all my careful protection accomplished exactly what it was designed to do. You have no idea how much you mean to me, which means you have no reason to consider me as more than a friend. A few weeks later, you're falling in love with someone brave enough to risk hoping for more than friendship. I watch you choose someone else while knowing I never gave you the chance to choose me. The devastating truth hits like ice water. My rule about protecting my heart from you was breaking my heart every single day, not through dramatic rejection, but through 1,000 small acts of emotional cowardice. I spend an entire weekend crying because I realize I didn't lose you to someone better. I lost you to my own fear, disguised as wisdom. I drive to the beach at 3 a.m. and scream at the ocean because I'm furious at myself for choosing protection over the possibility of everything I actually wanted. The rule I made to keep myself safe actually kept me alone. Not because you would have rejected me, but because I rejected the possibility before you ever had the chance to choose. These 6 ways reveal the truth about emotional rules. Never let you know how much you meant to me wasn't protection. It was self-sabotage disguised as self-preservation. I spent 18 months guarding my heart from someone who might have cherished it, while breaking it myself through 1,000 acts of emotional cowardice. Here's what I wish I could have told my terrified heart. The risk of loving someone and losing them is always smaller than the certainty of losing them by never loving them at all. Some women create rules about love because hope feels more dangerous than disappointment. But rules designed to protect our hearts often become prisons that suffocate them instead. I didn't lose you because you didn't want me. I lost you because I never let you know there was something to want. If you're currently watching someone follow rules that seem to protect them from you, maybe they're not protecting themselves from your rejection. Maybe they're protecting themselves from their own hope, because hope requires a kind of courage they're still learning to find. And maybe the kindest thing you can do is show them that some risks are worth taking. Not because success is guaranteed, but because regret weighs more than rejection. If you want to understand why women keep their deepest feelings hidden even from people they trust completely, watch my video. She told you every secret. Except the one that mattered most. That video will show you exactly why she always looked away when you said those 3 words, and why the most important truths are often the hardest to speak.